Welcome back. I've got Roberta Ravella on the line. Roberta, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good, good. Been looking forward to this conversation for a very long time. Seems like we booked this, like I said in the pre-show, 10 years ago. So finally glad to get you on the show. So why don't you share a little bit about you and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Sure. I am the founder and CEO of the Joy Experiment. And the Joy Experiment is the heart and science of bringing joy, ease, and flow into your life and business. I love the spiritual heart side and I love the science of it. I think it's amazing how they're coming together to show us what a lot of us already knew that no matter how much success you have, if it's empty for you inside, if it's not matching with your values, if it's not making your life better, if you're not in joy and peace, then it comes at a really high cost.
Very much so. And, I'm a poster child for that, earlier in my career. And when I started doing things that I enjoy doing and get fulfillment out of it, it you think time flies before it really flies because when you're having fun and you're just, enjoying life and getting to do the things you want to do and helping people and you feel great about it and they feel great, nothing beats that, and it's the old saying, it takes care of itself. It actually does. I
It
think a
really
lot,
does.
and it just is. It's a much better way to deal with it. And you see it, I see it. There's so many people that aren't anywhere near that level. They're just upset. Life's taking a toll on them. They're upset about a to Z. It could be anything, whether it's politics or government or their financial situation or the job market. There's so many different things that can pull our attention away from being joyful and fulfilled in life. So when you encounter people like that, and they're open, and that's the key thing, people, you need to
Yes.
be open to recognizing that the way that you're living is not how you want to live. And in order to change that, or I'm sorry, I used the change word, didn't mean to do that. Sorry, people. When you need to make an adjustment, that's a little softer word for people, then you can be willing to adjust in the areas you need to do. So, what are some of the things you see in people and help them kind of get to that other side where they really get to live life the way that they want to live it?
Yeah. One of the first things that I help them do is just know that it's possible. And that's where I came to first. I call it in the coaching that I do, I call it tipping points. It's that tipping point where okay, where I am right now is no longer tolerable. And so I'm willing to push over and to believe that change is possible, or that transformation is possible, or that something different is available to me. And until then, we'll just stay in the misery and humans can live in pain and suffering quite a long time. It's amazing. And so just that very belief that, okay, this is possible for me. What I feel that I want something better for myself. I want to feel good. I want to enjoy my life now, not when I'm 70 and retired, or when I've lost weight, or when I have this much money in the bank, or when I have a spouse, or when they finally act the way I want, or when my kids are gone. Like we have all these, when this happens, then I will. And what I found out for myself through my own experience was all those boxes checked, and I still felt like crap. I was like, wait a second here. This isn't how this is supposed to go. And so then I started looking for the possibility that no matter, how much money, no matter my spouse, no matter where we live, no matter my pants size, no matter what, that it came from inside of me. And so that just opened possibility of all these things are available to you now, and that's the first step, that awareness that you feel like you don't want to be where you're at, of course, and then that tipping point where you say, okay, I know it's possible for this to be different.
Yeah, it reminds me early in my career, I was an accountant. I always wanted to be an accountant ever since eighth grade. It was because I was good with numbers and did all that, went to school, got my degree in accounting, worked for a CPA firm, was in it for a good 10 years. Finally got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm at the top of the mountain and I'm looking down at this, top of mountain and going, I climbed the wrong damn mountain. I don't want to be up here. I don't want to do
Right.
this. I want to do something different. And I
It
did.
happens to a lot of us, right?
Oh yeah. And so I decided, okay, well, what can I do about this? I mean, climbing down, that's gonna be a tough climb. Is there a bridge or something? Can I maybe go halfway down and maybe cross over to a different mountain, to avoid, some of the, shortcomings or all, have to relearn everything. And, thankfully, I was able to use, there was a lot of skills that are transferable that I was able to use. So I segued over into IT and rode the dot-com wave, and that was a blast. It was complete insanity, but it was fun. And then reality hit, and people went, whoa, wow. And the economy crashed and everything else. And it was like, all right, well, let's go. I guess I can go count beans again. So did that for a little bit, realized not only did I hated it more than when I left. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do this. So, then I just kind of fumbled around a little bit and then stumbled into nonprofit world and did that for 15 years. And it was like,
Wow.
it was amazing. And then towards the end of that, I was like, climbed the wrong mountain again. And I say that wrong mountain. It wasn't the wrong mountain for me, but it was wrong for me at that point. It didn't used to
Yeah.
be wrong. And I
Right.
realized, okay, well, I've done this before, a little wiser. Like, hopefully I can, make the transition without skinning my knees up as much as I did the last time. So I did and decided to launch my business. I'm like, well, let's go into this and start helping people with burnout and workplace culture and, very similarly, try to help people reconnect with what they want to be. Give them the permission to decide what they want to be. And that's
Sure.
why, that's why your work is so critically important in this arena because if people don't like where they're at, they can choose to have it be different, but they have to make that choice first and then go through, the procedures and the exercises and the trainings like you do that can help them reconnect with what, their purpose is at this moment in time, not what their parents said they
Sure.
wanted to do. But, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, it's being who you want to be based on who you are. And one of the things that we work through for a lot of people that prevents them from making the changes that you made is that they're constantly judging by the past, right? Well, the last time I did this, I skint my knees. Well, the last time you did this was 10 years ago. You know a lot more than you did the last time. Well, I already climbed two mountains. I look like I don't know who I want to be. Well, who cares? Right? Like, are you going to stay in something that you hate because you don't want to upset your parents who probably just want you to be happy? And okay, or your spouse, or how you look on the outside, or whatever. I think we put so much pressure on starting over as if it's a failure. And maybe it's just the next thing. Maybe there's just somewhere else to go. It's not always some huge mountain to climb. Everything's not Mount Everest. And it's such an American thing, I think, that everything is like a hero, a conqueror, what if you're just living your friggin' life? What if your life is the first thing you did was this and the next thing you did was that? Or maybe you stayed, my husband worked in the same company for 32 years and he really liked that. But for me, I've been in several different things and it's been a curiosity that drove me to the next, right? Like what's around the corner? And is this a mountain to climb? I don't know. Maybe I'm just riding my bike down the beach. Everything doesn't have to be this colossal, let's go conquer, let's another hero's journey or whatever you want to call it. It's like, what do you want this to feel like? What do you want this to be for you? And I feel like that the eternal curiosity is something that we kill in business. It's something that we kill in ourselves. Like that wonderment. And it's something I teach a lot in my coaching is bringing people back to their imagination, right? Let's use your imagination for good instead of evil because you know all the evil stuff you can imagine, right? We know. So what if we just threw that out and it was like, I love that little saying you see on social media that says, what if you had the confidence of a 4-year-old in a Batman shirt? Like what if you got your imagination back on like you did when you were 4 and you could be anything? What would you imagine? What would you be curious about? What brings wonder to you? Like you went from being a whole an IT industry into a nonprofit. Like that's really cool. Like what did you find out? What made you so curious about it? I think when we find ourselves outside of our imagination and outside of our own curiosity, we kind of start to die a little bit.
Curiosity is one of those things that continues to fuel me, and I've got a Batman coaster here, so we're covered on that. But and I got other Batman stuff too, but not within reach. But no, my daughter made that for me, so thanks, Sarah.
Nice.
But again, that was curiosity was the component because when I remember the interviews that I had when I was segueing from one industry to another, and they're like, "Well, you've done this and this, but you haven't really done a whole lot of this. What makes you think you can do this?" It's like because I've been able to do everything else. I
Yeah.
it's and I don't want to diminish them because everybody in many industries think, well, our industry is different. Yeah, everybody's different, just like everybody else. And I've been,
Right.
and in my consulting, going back to the accounting days, actually helped out a lot because when you work for a CPA firm, you do audits and you audit all kinds of businesses. And one of the things that you get to do is you need to kind of learn that industry of the company that you're auditing so okay, where are some potential things to look at, what kind of expenses, how do you classify things, all that kind of stuff. But for me, I was, going back to curiosity, okay, what do you do here? How does this work? How does the supply chain work in all of this? So, deeper questions than, most auditors probably could or should ask in many cases. But that curiosity allowed me to get understanding of different industries. So when I go in and speak at a conference on workplace culture or burnout, okay, wastewater industry, I've spoke there. Grain elevators, spoke there. Legal education, healthcare, you name it. I've spoke at,
Right.
all kinds of industries. And they're like, how did you know this? Because you've never worked in it. It's like, well, before ChatGPT, I would actually research it and I knew enough about it. But even with AI, I still want to know. It's like, okay, you threw me that, but I want to look at other areas. I don't want to just rely on that because I could say something and look even more foolish than I do on
Oh,
most days. So it's important, again, to hammer back on the curiosity thing. Cur-
yes.
cur-
But you
cur-
brought up burnout, right? You cannot be curious when you're burnt out. You cannot be curious when you wake up in the morning, you're like, all right, I can make it. I can make it to the end of today. I'm not going to let this beat me. Or you wake up like I used to wake up, I was in mortgage sales for a long time. The first thing, like, who did I forget to call? Whose appraisals due? Who's supposed to close? Where the under, like, this just craziness in my brain. And then even after I had gotten out of it, I noticed like I took a little time off. And in my time off, I would still wake up with this just like jolt to my nervous system. And like, holy cow, what's going on here? I don't have to do anything today. I mean, literally, I didn't have to do anything. And working through that, like it started bringing my curiosity back and bringing my imagination back. But when your nervous system is in fight or flight, when you're in burnout, when you're just like fried, that's one of the ways to know, okay, I need to pull back here in some way, get my nervous system calm again so you can get your curiosity and your wonderment back. It can't survive in that fight or flight, hair on fire frenzy.
Well, I wouldn't know what hair on fire would be like because I don't really have any, but I can imagine it's not a comfortable sensation. I did have hair at a point in time. There's photo evidence of it. I think there might even be some video evidence of it. My late uncle he had a camcorder, when they first came out. He was always like the first in line to buy stuff like that. So first VCR, first camcorder, first everything. He was usually the first one that had it. And so it was always neat to see the technology and and be enamored with his disposable income that he had. But at the end of the day, and I think back to this and what you just said about burnout and I saw this the other day, and I was like, this makes a lot of sense. Is one of the things about burnout and being overwhelmed and just chasing and chasing is we like checking things off the box. We like completing tasks. We like things to be finished or done. And when you're overwhelmed and you're spinning and you can't figure out what you want to do and you don't like your job, there's a lot of open items that you're not able to close. And that bothers us big time. And it takes away our joy and our happiness because we're focused, just like you said, and when you mentioned, the mortgage industry, it's, that's an industry where, okay, there's so many players involved because you have a home or, property or something like that,
Yes.
that, someone's buying it, someone's selling it. So you got players on both sides and titles and, so all this stuff going on. And, the mortgage is a pretty big part of it, and making sure that people actually can get the funding to buy the home type of situation. And that being, okay, if I'm late, that is a domino effect, that just
Yes.
impacts everybody. But there's all kinds of players that could be late. One, we can't get the title squared away because there's somebody threw a lien on it in 1976. Who, what, so you have to go through all of that kind of stuff. So many different nightmares and potential pitfalls. But if you know that going in, you say, okay, what can I control? I can control my mood. I can control my emotions. I can make sure
Yes.
that I am, because if you do that, then you don't have those, or as many anyway, those wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Did I finish that for Mrs. Jones' mortgage that's coming up? Those tend to go away because you don't feel like you're this under this, fight or flight type of mode all the time.
Right.
And when you're working and you're allowing curiosity to reign instead of fatigue and burnout, those moments, while they still happen, you laugh at them. You go, why did I think about that? That's not due until January. Why am I thinking about that now? And then you might go, anything I can do with it now? Because I probably can't, because there's still things that we need. So, all right, well, I looked at it, and you basically tell the brain, we're on this, we're okay. You don't have to worry about it. You go factor something else to freak out about. But again,
Not that, yeah.
yeah,
But I mean, we would wrap our identity up in that so much, right? Like how much we worked, how stressed out we were, how much money we were making, how many hours we were working, how intense it was. Like that was the whole identity of it. It's Monday, we got to go back in the charge, and all that made up basically what you're saying. It's made up stress because it's going to come back when it comes back. It's all going to happen when it happens. I used to say the mortgage business was like a soap opera. Everything happens on Monday and Friday. Nothing in between matters. But we would just, that was our whole identity, like saying it to each other, how hard are you working? Or how busy are you? Or this is so stressful. Nobody else could do this. Um, and we were just so wrapped up in that being, for myself, it was my whole sense of self-worth was that money, how hard I worked, how much
yeah,
I knew. And then 2008 hit and none of that mattered. Like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
so I had to face the fact that I had not just wrapped up my identity, I had wrapped up my entire self-worth in how much money I made, how much I worked, how stressed out I was, how much I knew, how important it made me feel that I could fix a loan that other people couldn't fix, that type of thing. And that's really where this whole process started, was going from that to I didn't need to go to work because there were no loans to close.
and
There,
that's the
I didn't know
beauty of
anything
it.
about anything anymore. I didn't have any income anymore. I wasn't busy anymore. Like one day I was, and the next day, the owner of our company literally said, "We will not be funding loans until we figure this out. So y'all can go ahead and go to an art museum." And so I had to figure myself out and my identity and my self worth that I had so wrapped up in that it did burn me out, and come to, am I worth something as a human without a six-figure income, without people calling me and asking me questions, without being busy, without being stressed out, without all those things. And so that was, I think, the first really big life question I answered for myself, um, was that, are you going to allow yourself to be enough?
Yeah, and that's a question, and I see this all the time, and I know you probably do as well. A lot of people are really afraid of looking within. And I understand why. I get it, but it's we never spend any more time with anybody else on this planet than ourselves. So invest some time in figuring out why we feel this is important. And again, this can change over time. What's important to me today is certainly different than what was important to me in 2008 and 2009. Yeah, that was a fun time for all kinds of different people. I had my whole year of worst case scenarios, burnout, job loss, car repossession, home foreclosure, all in a year. That was a great year. But you know
Right.
what? It was the best thing that could have ever happened to me because it gave me that wake up call going, all right, what's important to me? And why is this important to me? What am I, is it to make my ego look good? Or is this actually beneficial to me? And when you make that shift and you take back ownership of yourself and your mindset and your happiness and fulfillment in life, oh my goodness, tastes a whole lot better and it looks better and it feels better and it's it's less transactional, it's
Yeah.
more experiential.
Yeah.
And as you were talking about that, in the work that you did, my hunch, and this is just a guess. So, doing quite well, six figures, all that stuff. You go out to dinner, you can obviously, or typically, that, compensation range can afford to go out and have a really nice dinner at a very nice restaurant. But when you're in that state of burnout and fatigue and overwhelm, you might as well eat at, a White Castle or a Checkers and save some money because you're not tasting the food. So it doesn't matter. Um, and I see that a lot, when I go to a nice place, I'm curious about people and I can look and I don't try to judge, but I just kind of look like, I sense they're not having the best go of it right now, where other people's like, wow, I want some of that because that energy is genuine and real and not there's no artificial flavors or additives to that. That is genuine. And you're like, okay, you kind of want to go, hi, you don't know me, but why are you so happy? The human dynamic's interesting, but I really wish that maybe more of us would do that and say, so what are you doing to enjoy life? And a lot of times those people are quite
Yeah.
open to sharing that. And I think
Absolutely.
it's again some of those things where I think we ultimately would be a lot better off collectively, and not as stressed out about all the external things that happen that we really don't have much control over. That we can really spend some time on focusing on being the best person that we can be for ourselves. Because when we do that, everybody benefits from it.
Do. And a lot of things just fall in line. I mean, that's one of the when I was getting out of the mortgage business and I didn't really know what else I wanted to do and I was kind of exploring it, so I was still half in, half out. I had noticed how my energy had gotten just to where I was really forcing, and I was great at what I did, and no issue selling or doing the deals or whatever. And I remember I was driving one day and somebody called and I really didn't want to answer the phone, and I said to myself, I'm like, nobody deserves your half-assness. So make up it's time to do something. And I feel like when we get into those inflection points, we talked about tipping points earlier, where your inner being is screaming at you. You know, you're sitting at that dinner and there's all the food in front of you and the wine you want or whatever it is. And you're like, I'm not enjoying this. And those folks over there are enjoying this. Where you get a phone call that's offering you money and you go, God, I really just don't even want to answer the phone. It's like, now's the time to say, okay, what do I really want? And it's okay to do like what you did. Say, you know what, I've done this for 10 years and I'm finished. And now it's time for me to figure something else out. I was just telling a friend of mine the other day, she's starting a new business and she's like, what, you've started a couple over the last 3 years. I had a partnership with an AI firm that we did some things and it was so much fun and then we shut it down. I did a marketing company for a little while. I had a great time and I shut it down. And she's like, "What advice would you give me?" I'm like, "Be okay with it not working out or it working out the way it's going to work out." Like, I am so happy that I did that AI partnership. And was it like the billion quadrillion dollars that we were just so sure it was going to be? No. But I learned so much. And I also trusted myself to say, hey, this isn't going to go the way we think it's going to go. I think it's time we part ways and just shut it down. Like it wasn't this huge failure, or in the past, I would have tried so hard. I would have forced it. I would have done everything I didn't want to do to make it work because I couldn't not make it work. And learning to just let it go was one of the best things I think that I've ever learned in my little journey here on the planet, right? Is like it can be fun for a year, for 3 or 4 years. It can be profitable or whatever you're supposed to learn from it. But like you learning so much from losing your car and your house, you could live in that for years. You could live in that in the whole rest of your life. I've seen people do it. Or you can say, okay, what's next? What am I curious about now? What is meant for me in all of this? And I'm not a fan of reframing because a lot of people would try and tell us to reframe things in sales and stuff like that. Like, I really don't like doing this. I'm like, oh, but you're gonna make so much money, so you do. I'm like, well, you know what? No, I don't. I'm sure losing your home and losing your car wasn't fun. And you probably look back on it and you still know it wasn't fun, but you know that there was something there for you that was meant to open you back up to something else. And just being able to trust ourselves to go, okay, it's time for this to move on, or me to move on to the next best, or to become curious again and to say it's more than okay for me to do that. It's what we do.
It is. And going back to your conversation you had with your friend, it's a great segue into your new book, Open for Business. So, why don't you share a little bit about the book and what it's about?
Okay, thank you. So Open for Business is came out of me noticing that I had all these desires for my own business, but I wasn't available to them. I was either afraid to to feel that way or to say, you know what, joy is what you should look for first in business. That sounds like, a little bit of woo-woo nuttery or somebody who's got all the money they need and now they can just do whatever, right? Um, and so for myself to become open and available for what it is that I wanted to do and who I wanted to be in business. What does that feel like? What does it look like when you say, Michael, when you say I want to, go into consulting and help people be curious and help them be open? You need to be available to all the things that that means. And so the book is for that. So when you desire to have a certain type of business or to be enjoy in your business, to put your values first in your business, what does it feel like and look like to be emotionally, mentally, and physically available for what it is you're asking for?
And that's so key because in order for you to, and you mentioned this before, you have to be open to allow it to be what it's going to be. So often we are controlling. We want, okay, it's going to be this and it's going to do this, and we're going to sell this many widgets and it's going to do this, and we're going to hit this market at this date. We might not. Yeah, I don't know. But don't let that hold you back. And of I think of all the innovations that we don't have today because people held back. I mean, who knows what they could be? But I always tell people, especially when they say, I'm thinking about writing a book, my first response to it is write it. They haven't even said what the book's about. I, I don't know. Write it, get it out there. Why? Because someone may need to hear that story in order for them to do what they're going to do, which is going to impact humanity. And we all have that opportunity. Don't, it's better to try it and have it not work out the way you thought it would than to think about it and sit around and, well, maybe I'll do it. And because, you know, maybe is like comfort avenue. We spend way too much time there and we need to get out there and actually be curious and try different things, play around, experiment. We did as kids.
Absolutely.
Somehow we lost that skill set for some reason. It was either beaten out of us or society beat us out of us. Hopefully not physically beat it out of us,
Right.
but and I see that's like, no, be curious, be playful. Why not?
Yeah.
Well,
Why
we're
not?
so, yeah. Okay. So you spent some time exploring and being curious about something. If it didn't work out, okay, that may be a good thing. Okay, it didn't work out because in that way I can focus my attention on doing something else that might work out. And you don't stand over the casket of your dead business going, okay, I mean, you can, is there lessons to be learned? Potentially, but don't spend time, and I see it, you see it all the time, people just
Yeah.
camp out in victimhood, and it's like that's not gonna get make things better.
No.
It's if anything, it's going to make things worse because your body's fighting that negativity. And having worked in primary care for a period of time, I know most of the chronic diseases have stress as a common ingredient.
Yes.
Too many milligrams of stress. Yeah, that's basically
Yes.
caused this. So got to
Yes.
deal with that.
Yes. And I would love to say in that a lot of what I worked through in writing the book is I thought that everything needed to be the opposite of who I was before. Opposite of the hard work, opposite of hustle, opposite, opposite, opposite. And it's like, what are you going to do? Move to an ashram? I say that all the time. It's not opposite, it's different. Curiosity, imagination, being in your values, looking for the joy in yourself and in others isn't the opposite, it's different.
And I think that's a key thing for us to remind as we wrap up. So, love this conversation. Where can people find out more about you, the book, and everything else you're doing?
Yes, you can find me on my website, thejoyexperiment.live, Live. I'm on TikTok and YouTube under The Joy Experiment. And you can also email me at roberta@robertaravella.com.
Awesome. I'll definitely have that in the show notes. So, thank you so much for your time today. I'm glad we finally connected. It seemed like forever. I'll have to go back in my notes and see when did we actually line this up. It's like,
It's a while ago.
it was a while. So, thank you for your patience and really, really happy we had this conversation today. So, thanks so much for being on the
Absolutely.
show. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Michael.